Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a little chat about artists who made records we shouldn't forget about. They're still available, which is also a good thing. But, there was so much stuff recorded in the past few decades by major artists, and it all seems as if it was glommed together and then stuck in a closet somewhere. And we're never going to hear from it again. And that's a shame because some of it is marvelous. And I wanted to talk particularly about Alicia de Larrocha, who was just a great pianist, and in particular her Mozart. That was her thing. I mean, she's famous for doing all the Spanish stuff as well. That's true. And she did it, incomparably well. She did it fabulously well. But, she was known in her career as a specialist also in the music of Mozart. I mean, she was the queen of the New York Mostly Mozart Festival. In terms of the keyboard queen of the Mostly Mozart Festival. She was there. And now that all this stuff is getting played on forte pianos and things like that, there is a danger, a real danger, a terrible, awful, terrible danger that we're going to forget about all the wonderful work that was done by keyboard artists who were able to specialize in Mozart without being period instrument, cult members or scholars of historical performance practice. Because of course, when you look at any piece of music by anybody that we still play today, the music consists of 95%, music that can be played any way you want to, and 5%, the instrument. I mean, 5% the practice element of it. In my view, that's me. I really do. I mean, the musicianship is everything. And, the instrument you pick and what you do to it and all that stuff. Well, that's like icing on the cake. If the cake needs icing, sometimes it doesn't need icing. And so Alicia de Larrocha, and I'm going to say in the anglicized way, thank you, so I can do it more quickly. Alicia de Larrocha was an amazing performer whose Mozart really required no icing at all. It was there. It was complete. It was Mozart at his most musical and charming and ingratiating, and she played it with complete conviction and confidence, and it was delicious. So what have we got here? I've got two things. These are her later Mozart recordings on RCA. And I see that they're still around. And so because they're still around, I just feel that we really ought to talk about them once in a while, so they don't fall completely under the radar or get stuffed in the attic or in the closet or in the crawl space or, wherever your mini storage, wherever your abundance of Mozart goes, the overflow room even. So she did all the Mozart sonatas. I mean, here they are on 5 discs. A really beautiful Mozart sonata cycle. It's absolutely lovely, including you get some other goodies too. You get the Fantasia in D minor, whatever that is, 397, which is just fabulous, and the Rondo in D major, and the Fantasia in C minor, Koelschel 475, which is one of the great piano things that anybody ever wrote, and the Rondo in A minor. And otherwise, you've got all the other piano sonatas, of which, how many did Mozart actually write? Well, according to this, there are 18 of them. That seems about right. Yeah, I always thought it was somewhere around there. I don't usually count these things and pay much attention unless, there's a reason, like an important reason I have to know. But they're all here. Now, Mozart sonatas are tricky. They're tricky because there are some that are major statements, but most of them were written as instructional pieces for his students, and they're kind of light and fluffy. I mean, they're not as interesting as Haydn's sonatas, for example. I insist. It's a controversial claim, but, lots of people agreed with me, including like Glenn Gould and people like that. And so in order to make the most of them, you have to treat them with a certain amount of respect and seriousness, and you have to ferret out their interesting and differentiated character. And Alicia de Larrocha was wonderful at doing that. She clearly loves the music. I'm not going into detail about these because we're talking about sort of generalities. But I want you to know these are around. And it's a beautiful Mozart sonata cycle, which I don't hear mentioned very often anymore. not surprising. She's gone, and there are tons of Mozart sonata things. We have, Robert Levin, who just did, his complete Mozart on period instruments with incomplete works that he channeled Mozart to complete and all that stuff. And it's fabulous. It's just amazing. But this still has its original validity. And so, frankly, does this. Ha-ha! Maybe even more so. The piano concerti that she did. She did all of them. It's all of the ones that matter, the more major ones. She does 9, 10, and 19 through 27, as well as the Sonata for two pianos with André Previn, of all people. I wish she'd done the earlier teen concertos. I mean, numbers 12 through 18 or whatever they are, which some of them are marvelous, especially, that little trio of like 14, 15, 16, on 17, which is one of my all-time favorites. Okay, never mind. I wish she'd done them all. I mean, I was trying to make the best case for just the one she did, but nah, that doesn't work. I wish she'd done all of them. They're fabulous, those teen concertos there. But these are lovely. They're absolutely lovely. She does do the Jeune Homme, number 9 at least, which is terrific. The Concerto for two pianos also has André Previn, assisting. But you have, more to the point, with the Previn, with the two piano concerto, you've got the Orchestra of St. Luke's, whose Previn is conducting and playing the piano in the two piano concerto, and in the Sonata for two pianos, he's just playing the piano. But elsewhere, we have the English Chamber Orchestra under Colin Davis. Yes. And of course, Colin Davis was also one of our premier Mozart conductors in the latter half of the 20th century. And so these are beautiful. I mean, we were talking recently about Mozart piano concerto cycles, where we had, Geza Anda and Marie Pariah and Daniel Barenboim. And then we just mentioned, we were talking about Alfred Brendel. And, there is a tendency when you do a clump to favor the people who do the complete clump rather than partial clumps. And unfortunately for Alicia de Larrocha, she did a partial clump. And for that reason, these performances are likely to be overlooked or ignored because people might as well get the whole shebangy rather than getting only a partial clump. Well, this is a first-rate partial clump. I mean, along with people like, remember, Peter Serkin did a partial clump, a bunch of them. And a lot of other people never did complete anything. I mean, complete things were sort of a modern idea, actually, conceptually speaking. And the great advantage in these performances is that not only do you have an absolutely supreme Mozart pianist at the keyboard, but you also have a real conductor, a real honest-to-goodness conductor who can get the orchestra to participate and characterize, like, for example, with Andras Schiff and Sándor Vég, where you just needed these two independent personalities coming together. And some of these performances are just marvelous. I mean, the Elvira Madigan 21 is terrific. The minor key ones are juicy and minor. I mean, they sound aptly dramatic where they need to. I'm a particular fan. I'm always a fan of number 25. I mean, when it's done really well, because 25 is a concerto that people tend to ignore because it's a little bit on the cool side, but it's a military concerto. It has trumpets and timpani. It's very majestic, and it's a very subtle work. And my goodness, they play it beautifully. They really do. These are lovely, lovely performances, and they deserve to be heard and collected. So there you have it. I'm not going to make a meal out of this. I just want to point out that these are there. And they don't deserve to be dismissed. And if you are curious and you are looking for some really good Mozart, you collect Mozart, don't just sit on complete cycles. Look at some of these other people who did fabulous work. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.